Right then, you lot. Today we're talking about Boer goats. Not just any goats, mind you, but Boer goats. These aren't your average farmyard nuisances. Boer goats are bred for their meat, and they grow fast. We're talking a good bit of weight on these lads in a short amount of time. Over the next few minutes, I'm going to walk you through the ins and outs of raising Boer goats. So grab yourself a cuppa, settle in, and let's get down to the business of Boer goats. Now, you might be wondering why I'm going on about goats. The truth is, farming's changing. The old ways, they aren't always cutting it anymore. Take coffee, for example. The price of coffee has gone down the loo recently. A 50-kilogram bag used to fetch a tidy sum, something like $498. Now, you're lucky to get $372. That's where our Boer goats come in. They're a good, solid investment. They grow quickly, the meat's in demand, and frankly, they're a bit more interesting than another field of barley. Boer goats might just be the answer. Now, I'm not one to complain about a decent cup of coffee, but even I have to admit the recent price crash is a bit of a blow. We're talking a significant drop, from a respectable $498 per 50-kilogram bag to a paltry $372. You see, coffee's a tricky business. It's at the mercy of the weather, pests, and those fickle coffee snobs. And when the price crashes, it's the farmers who feel it first. Diversification, that's the key. And that, my friends, is where our woolly friends come in. Goats, particularly Boer goats, offer a viable alternative. They're hardy creatures, adaptable to different climates, and they grow quickly. That means a faster return on your investment, which is music to any farmer's ears. Unlike coffee, which requires specific soil and climate conditions, goats are more versatile. Plus, there's a growing demand for goat meat, both domestically and internationally. Boer goats offer a glimmer of hope, a chance to diversify and adapt to changing markets. From South African shores, a goat's tale begins. Boer goats hail from the land of safari and sunshine, South Africa. The Boer people, known for their farming prowess, saw something special in these goats. They were hardy, adaptable to the harsh African climate, and most importantly, they grew quickly. So they started selectively breeding them, focusing on traits like meat quality and growth rate. Over generations, the Boer goat, as we know it today, was born. From the rolling hills of England to the vast plains of Texas, Boer goats are making their mark. The Boer advantage built for growth. These goats are like the Ferraris of the goat world, built for speed and performance. Boer goats have this uncanny ability to pack on the pounds fast. We're talking a solid 6 to 9 kilograms of weight gain in the first month alone. And it's not just baby fat, mind you. These goats develop lean muscle mass quickly. Within 18 to 19 months, they reach full maturity, tipping the scales at a whopping 100 to 140 kilograms. That's a whole lot of goat to put on the dinner table. Six months to market. A farmer's delight. Boer goats, with their remarkable growth rate, can be ready for market in as little as 6 months. That's right, just half a year from bouncing baby goat to profitable product. Compare that to other livestock, and you'll see why Boer goats are catching the eye of farmers looking for a quick turnaround. This rapid growth cycle means you can have multiple production cycles in a year, maximizing your output and ultimately, your profits. And with the demand for goat meat on the rise, those plump Boer goats will be flying off the shelves. Right then, let's talk about the birds and the bees, or in this case, the billies and the does, breeding goats. It's not exactly rocket science, but there's a bit more to it than just throwing them all in a field and hoping for the best. Natural breeding is all about letting nature take its course. You introduce a strapping young buck into the herd of females, and nature usually takes care of the rest. But we're not just after any old offspring here. We want quality. That means choosing your breeding stock carefully. Now, while natural breeding has its merits, sometimes you need a more hands-on approach. That's where artificial insemination, or AI, as it's known in the farming world, comes in. With AI, you're essentially bypassing the whole romance aspect and getting straight to the point. You collect semen from a top-quality buck, and then a vet or trained technician will artificially inseminate the does. AI allows you to access superior genetics that might not be available locally. You can choose from a wider pool of potential sires, ensuring you get the best of the best for your herd. Here's the thing about breeding goats, or any livestock for that matter. It's not just about quantity, it's about quality. You don't want a herd of scrawny, sickly goats that nobody wants to buy. You want prime specimens, the kind that make butchers drool and customers come back for more. By selecting the right breeding stock, whether through natural breeding or AI, you're shaping the future of your herd. Invest in good genetics and you'll reap the rewards for years to come. It's the same principle with goats as with crops. Choose the best, healthiest seeds to ensure a bountiful harvest. Right then, let's talk about the miracle of life, goat style. Boer goats have a gestation period of about 5 months. That's a good long while for a farmer to wait, especially when you've got bills to pay and mouths to feed. But let me tell you, those 5 months are well worth the wait. During those 5 months, it's important to keep a close eye on your does. Proper nutrition is key, plenty of fresh water, and a comfortable place to rest those swollen bellies. And then, the big day arrives. After 5 months, your does will start popping out kids like a Pez dispenser gone wild. Boer goat kids are born ready to grow, like teenagers at an all-you-can-eat buffet. Within the first month of life, those little bundles of bleating joy will pack on a staggering 6 to 9 kilograms. Boer goats are genetically programmed for growth. This rapid growth rate is a testament to their breeding, their efficiency, and their ability to turn grass into profit faster than you can say bah. Now I know what you're thinking, Jeremy, when can I cash in on these furry little gold mines? Patience, my friend, patience. While Boer goats are the precocious teenagers of the livestock world, they still need some time to reach their full potential. We're talking 18 to 19 months for them to hit full maturity. By this point, those once tiny kids will have transformed into impressive specimens, tipping the scales at a handsome 100 to 140 kilograms. But timing is everything in the farming game. It's a delicate balance, like trying to herd cats, only slightly less chaotic. Right then, you've got your Boer goats, you're raring to go, ready to turn those bleeding mouths into profitable assets. But hold your horses, or goats as it were. Before you let those new additions loose on your pristine pasture, we need to talk about quarantine. Quarantine is about protecting your investment, plain and simple. Those new goats, as healthy as they may seem, could be harboring unseen nasties. And the last thing you want is for those unwelcome guests to spread through your entire herd like wildfire in a dry forest. So, how do we go about this whole quarantine business? Well, it's all about separation, my friends. Think of it like those posh hotels with separate wings for different guests. You want dedicated pens for different groups, a bachelor pad for the bucks, a maternity ward for the does about to give birth, and of course, our star attraction, the quarantine zone. This should be a separate area, well away from the main herd, where new arrivals can be monitored for any signs of illness. We're talking separate feeding and watering stations, different tools for cleaning, the whole 9 yards. The idea is to minimize contact between groups to prevent the spread of any potential problems. Now I know what you're thinking. Jeremy, this all sounds very sensible, but how much space do I actually need for this quarantine malarkey? Well, good question. A good rule of thumb is to aim for around 300 meters between the quarantine zone and your main herd. Think of it as a safety buffer, a goat-free DMZ where no unwanted germs can cross. This distance might seem excessive, but trust me, it's better to be safe than sorry. And while you're at it, make sure your quarantine pen is well ventilated, dry, and has enough space for the goats to move around comfortably. Remember, a stressed goat is more susceptible to illness, and a sick goat is bad for business. Right then, let's talk about feeding these furry little moneymakers. Goats are natural grazers, which means they love nothing more than to munch on grass, weeds, and the occasional discarded welly. But before you unleash them on your prize-winning petunias, we need to talk about pasture management. A good pasture isn't just a random patch of green. It's a carefully curated ecosystem. The key is diversity. Goats are browsers, not grazers like sheep. meaning they prefer a variety of plants in their diet. Rotate your pastures regularly to prevent overgrazing and consider planting specific forage crops that are particularly beneficial for goats. Now, while a good pasture is the foundation of a healthy goat diet, sometimes it's not enough. Just like you wouldn't expect to survive on lettuce alone, your goats need a bit more oomph in their diet, especially during certain stages of life. That's where supplemental feeding comes in. We're talking about things like hay, grain, and mineral blocks, all carefully chosen to provide those extra nutrients that might be lacking in their pasture. Hay is particularly important during the winter months when fresh grass is scarce. Good quality hay, like alfalfa or timothy, provides essential fiber and helps keep their digestive systems ticking over nicely. Grain, on the other hand, is like rocket fuel for goats. It's high in energy and protein, which is crucial for growing kids and pregnant or lactating does. But be careful not to overdo it. Too much grain can lead to health problems like bloat, which is about as pleasant as it sounds. Now before you all rush out and buy yourselves a herd of these wonder goats, let's have a bit of a reality check, shall we? Farming, no matter how you slice it, is hard work, and it comes with its fair share of challenges. Boer goats, as fantastic as they are no exception. One of the biggest hurdles you'll face is the initial investment. Good quality Boer goats, the kind that will give you a decent return, don't come cheap. Think of it like buying a car. You could get yourself a rusty old banger that'll get you from A to B, or you could invest in something reliable, something built to last. Same goes for goats. And it's not just the goats themselves. You'll need proper fencing, shelter, feeding equipment, and let's not forget about the vet bills. Goats, like most animals, have a knack for finding new and creative ways to injure themselves, or worse, get sick. And those treatments don't come cheap. Section 2. Location, the climate conundrum. Another thing to consider is your climate. Now, Boer goats are a hardy bunch, originally from the wilds of South Africa. They can handle a bit of heat and dust. But what they don't appreciate is the cold, wet misery that we Brits call winter. If you're in a colder climate, you'll need to invest in proper shelter to protect your goats from the elements. We're talking sturdy barns, windbreaks, maybe even some heated lamps if it gets really nasty. And all of that adds to your costs. And then there's the issue of feed. During the winter months, when fresh pasture is scarce, you'll need to rely on hay and other supplemental feeds. And let me tell you, the price of hay has gone up faster than a runaway tractor lately. Section 3. Goats Gone Wild, Managing Risks and Diseases. Goat farming comes with risks. Disease is a major concern. Goats can catch many ailments. Biosecurity is crucial. Quarantine, worming, and vaccinations help. Act quickly during outbreaks. Predators are another risk. Foxes, coyotes, and badgers can attack. Invest in fencing and guard dogs. Section 4. Gala goats? Not on my watch. Avoiding costly crossbreeding mistakes. Now I've got one final piece of advice for you aspiring goat magnates. And this is a big one, so listen closely. When it comes to breeding Boer goats, purity is key. You see, there's this other breed of goat out there called the Gala goat. Now, Gala goats are all well and good if you're after milk. But when it comes to meat production, they're about as useful as a chocolate teapot. And the worst part is they can easily crossbreed with your Boer goats, diluting the genetics and ruining your carefully curated herd. So how do you avoid this catastrophic mix-up? Simple. Don't let Gala goats anywhere near your Boer goats. It's like keeping your prize-winning tomatoes separate from your genetically modified ones. You wouldn't want to end up with a hybrid monstrosity, would you? Embracing the Boer goat revolution. The world of Boer goat farming is wonderful, wacky, and occasionally whiffy. From their origins to keeping them healthy and profitable, we've covered a lot. It's not easy, but the rewards can be substantial. Boer goats offer a fantastic opportunity for farmers. With their rapid growth and market demand, they represent a great chance to diversify. The world is waking up to the benefits of goat meat. As demand grows, so do opportunities for Boer goat farmers. Section 2. Goats and Gratitude, a final word from Diddley Squat Farm. Watching my Boer goats frolicking, I feel optimistic. The future of farming is full of potential, Embrace new ideas and adapt. Whether you're seasoned or a novice, give Boer Goats a try. You might surprise yourself. Happy farming, and remember, there's always goat yoga.